Hello. I'm so excited to have everybody joining us today. And I'll tell you what, today I am so grateful. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for Jace. Come on, Jace. Jace is the best VA in the whole wide world. And just so you know, Jace, I am grateful for you. And
Thank
I
you.
want you to know I appreciate all the hard work that you put in. And I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Now, today I want to talk about some of my personal stories, but I'm going to give just one story, but it's going to be about gratitude. And, sometimes you have those days where there's nothing to be grateful for. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong. Have you ever had one of those days?
Of course, I think all of us, will have one of those days at some points of our lives where everything kind of just turns out negative if we do something. But I think for me, um, it happens a lot the past few days, but you know, there's that.
It runs in threes. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we all have those. And I just, honestly, there are some things that we can do. And we'll talk about that more later. But, finding gratitude during tough times, that is hard. It's challenging. But we have to practice because it shifts our perception. And, we practice on the little things like somebody smiled at us, or we have a friend that loves us unconditionally, even if we screw up or do something stupid. Or maybe for a piece of chocolate or a cup of coffee. In my case, it would be chocolate, milk chocolate, preferably. Um, Give me my chocolate. Um, you guys are like, oh, Karen. Um, but the little things. And you keep those in mind. And if you keep the little things in mind, it makes it easier. But you got to write them down, because on days like today, in your case, days like the last few days, it's easy to forget that things have gone right in the past because we get so focused on the here and now. I mean, focused on the here and now. So, my challenge to you is to journal, but I have another challenge for you. Are you ready for this? Every day, I want you to list 10 things that you are grateful for. And yes, bodily functions count. I was challenged to do, you like this, Jace, true story. I was challenged to do this many years ago. And I was challenged, they didn't tell me about body functions though, but I was challenged to come up with 10 things I was grateful for. And I'll tell you what, for days I'd go, I'm grateful that and I couldn't think of anything. And finally, my ex husband at the time, but my ex husband said, "Well, are you grateful you can breathe?" And honestly, Jace, I wasn't so sure I was. I mean, that's how bad things seemed to be for me. I wasn't sure. And so for this first couple of months, I had to do body functions. I'm grateful that I can breathe. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that my heart is beating. I'm grateful that I can hear. I'm grateful that, and I had to go through body functions. But if you find 10 things every day to be grateful for and then write them down and try and have it be a different 10 things every day. I mean, you got hundreds of body functions, if nothing else. But, just 10 things to be grateful for every day, then it changes everything.
Yeah.
It changes everything. So, is it all right if I tell everybody a story about a day where I was not grateful? I chose to not be grateful. Would that
Of
be okay
course.
with you?
Yeah.
All right, let's go into that. I'll tell my story then. All right. there are those days when you wake up in the morning and you are miserable. You're ornery. Can I use the word pissy on air? You're ornery. You're not nice. Um, what? You wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and you have a choice at that point. I can look for the positive and look for things to be grateful for, or I can go ahead and wallow in my negativity and in everything is going wrong. Well, this particular day that I'm thinking of, it was everything seemed to be going wrong for me, and it was going to continue to go wrong for me because I was looking for all the bad stuff. This is back when I was on the road speaking, 4 or 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month. And I was doing a presentation in my hometown. And then my flight to the next city didn't leave until like 11 o'clock at night. And my event got over with at 5. If it was long, I'd be done by 6. That left me with 5 hours with nothing to do. And nobody was going to be at my home. So there was no point in me going back home and then going to the airport. And there was no one to take me to the airport. And this was before Uber. And I didn't want to pay a taxi. So it was like, just go to the airport, sit and wait. Now, I don't know if you've ever sat and waited in an airport for 5 hours, but it is excruciatingly painful and boring. So I was already irritable because of that. I was irritable because nobody was going to be home. I mean, how dare they go and have fun and play while I'm having to travel and not have any fun? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can see how I'm looking for the things to be negative about. Well, I get to my hotel that I'm speaking at, and I go into the large room, and there are supposed to be boxes there for me to display some items with. And of course, no boxes. Just of course. Now, do I believe there were no boxes because I was irritable? No, they just weren't there. Have I had it happen before where there were no boxes and I went, okay, let's find the boxes? And it wasn't a big deal? Yes. But because I chose to be irritable this day, I was fuming that the boxes were not there. And then to make it worse, true story, true story. To make it worse, they had had a family party in the event hall the night before, and one of them had spilled a gallon of milk on the carpet. I don't know if you have ever smelled spoiled milk before, but oh my goodness, it is rank. So here's the spoiled milk smell. My boxes aren't there. And to top it off, they didn't have the chairs lined up right. Now, there is a way to line up chairs so that people can participate better. True story, anybody that's speakers, you know how this goes. There are certain ways that you want them lined up, and the chairs were all wrong. So I'm on the phone with the hotel trying to find my boxes. I'm personally lining up the chairs so that they are right. I'm asking them to please find a way to clean up this freaking smell of spoiled milk. Okay, I'm irritable. Well, you like this. My topic that day was on being positive. So I got up on stage and with the biggest smile I could muster, I talked about being positive. And every time I said something about being positive, my mind went, not, not, because I was enjoying being miserable. We all have those days where we enjoy being miserable. Now, that doesn't mean we should be, but we do. Well, I did my presentation and I am at the last half hour of the presentation. I am almost done with the day when all of a sudden somebody from the hotel came in and said, Karen, is there a Karen Marzo here, which was my maid or my previous married name? Is there a Karen Marzo here? And I went, that would be me. And they said, we have an emergency call for you. Okay, now my first thought, and some of you would have this thought too, my first thought was somebody better be dead or dying, or I'm going to kill him for interrupting this important session that I'm giving. I will forever regret having that thought. Because when I got the phone, what I heard was, your son has attempted suicide and is in ER. Throw me back. I could smell the rank smell of the milk. I could hear the clock as it ticked, 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 ticked. Everything in the room seemed to stop, and my heart sunk to the bottom of my feet. And I instantly regretted saying what I had said in my mind. Well, as I told Jace earlier, I had for years been practicing gratitude, 10 things to be grateful for. And at that moment, that habit jumped in, even though that day I'd already chosen to be negative and irritable and ornery and enjoy not having a good attitude. It jumped in, and automatically my mind starting to say things that I'm grateful for. One, I'm grateful he wasn't successful. Two, I'm grateful that I have a friend that went through this with her daughter. Not that she went through it, but that she knew what to do, and I would have her for support. I'm grateful I had friends and family that I could have for support. I'm grateful for, it was hard to come up with 10 things to be grateful for, but there were things to be grateful for. And the number one was that he was not successful. And one of my gratitudes were, thank goodness my flight doesn't leave until 11. I'll have 5 whole hours to get to spend with him in the hospital. And I was grateful that I was going to be on the road because I knew what lay ahead. And that was they would put him in the psych ward and I wouldn't be allowed to see him for a minimum of a week. Well, the audience understood. We ended the session. I ran to the hospital. Well, because I had been able to instantly bring myself into an attitude of gratitude, when I saw him, instead of being, how could you do this to me? Because let's be honest, sometimes when bad things happen, it's, how could you do this to me? How could you put me in a position to be worried about you? When in reality, it has nothing to do with me. Because of an attitude of gratitude, I was able to remove myself from the situation. And I said, I am so sorry you felt this was your only option. What can I do to make it better for you? How can I make it better for you? And he started to cry and he says, you're not mad at me? And I said, absolutely not. I am not mad at you at all. I'm hurt that I didn't recognize the signs and that I didn't help you in advance. That's my bad. But that has nothing to do with you. You're hurting, and there's a reason you're hurting. And you're going to have to find out what that reason is. And I can't tell you because I don't know. And even if I did know, I wouldn't fully understand because I am me and not living your situation. Well, everybody else came and went, I can't believe you did this to me. Do you know how worried I was you had me? Well, I didn't know this until years later, well, months later, I should say, when he wrote an ode to Mother. And in that, he said, thank you for being more concerned about me than you were about how it was impacting you. Um, but that's a whole nother story. But that comes back to having practiced gratitude every single day for years. And I had days where I chose not to be grateful. I had those days when if things went wrong and I could choose, do I want to find the good things happening or do I want to go ahead and wallow and focus on the bad things? And you know what? Let's be honest. Sometimes it feels good to wallow on the bad things because we get sick and tired of always looking for the good. But you want to look for the good whenever humanly possible. So I challenged him. I said, we both know I'm not going to be able to see you. I'm going to be gone on the road speaking. You're going to be here. They're not going to let family in to see you for a while, but they'll let me call you. I'm going to call every day and I need you to tell me 10 things you're grateful for. Well, the next day I called and all he could come up with bodily functions. And I said, that's okay. Write them down. And tomorrow we want another 10 that's not already written down. And the next day, he gave me 10 more bodily functions. This went on for several days. And then finally, there was a day where I don't even remember what it was. They brought him something that he loved, a treat for the dessert for his meal. And he wrote down that he was grateful for, and we'll say a brownie. I don't know what it was, but we'll say brownie. I'm grateful for getting a brownie today. Well, you know what? That goes back to what I said earlier with Jace that find the little things that you can be grateful for and write them down. And the next day, he found two or three other things to be grateful for. And then he found more and more. And he started practicing and practicing and practicing. Well, eventually, he was able to come up with 10 things without even thinking about it off the top of his head. Now, I can come up with 10 things off the top of my head when I do seminars and I challenge people come up with 10 things. It's amazing how many of them just go 10. But those that are practiced, it's like, I'm grateful that people smile at me. I'm grateful I got to walk on the beach this morning. I'm grateful that I saw the most majestic bird playing in the water. I'm grateful for my husband because he is delightful. I am grateful that somebody bought our scooters. So when we move back to St. George, our scooters are gone. I'm grateful. You get the idea. Um, and those are all things that happened just today so far. And there's a whole long list of other things. I'm grateful for Jace, and I am grateful for him every day. The kid works his tush off to make sure everything I have runs smoothly, and he's on top of things. So those are some of the things that you've got to do to find gratitude. And you also, if there's somebody that does something that you're grateful for, if you practice telling them you're grateful for them, it helps solidify in your mind that there are things to be grateful for. One of the things I used to do when I was in management was we had a gratitude trophy of some kind. And I remember one place we had this great big eyeball, and it was, I saw you doing something good. And the eyeball went to somebody, and you listed out 10 things that you saw them doing good over the week. And then the next week, when they got it, let's say I got it today. So here I have the eyeball. We'll use this mouse. So I've got this eyeball. I saw you doing 10 things good. Well, now I have to find somebody else that's doing 10 things good to give to them, and I have to list out those 10 things. Well, what happened was the attitude in the office improved immensely because everybody was looking for things that people did right so they could write it down. And when you start looking for what people are doing right, all of those annoying habits, like Karen clicking on and off her pen, You know that person. Yeah, I'm that person, or tapping on the desk, tap, tap, tap. You stop looking at those things and you start looking for, I'm grateful that I'm grateful that Jonathan smiles at me every morning when he first sees me. I'm grateful that he takes out the trash. I'm grateful that, whatever it is that you're grateful for. And I gone blank on Jonathan, but just because I'm making up a name. But whatever it is that you're grateful for, but go over that. And these gratitudes will grow. And you'll start to notice that there are more things to be grateful for. Now, there are times in life when, and Jay said it, that several days it seemed like there was nothing to be grateful for. And we have those dark times. And I call them dark times. And you can have a dark time and still choose to be happy. But that is difficult. What I tell you to do is hold on. A dark time is like finding a tunnel. And you know what? Sometimes we're on a mountainside and there's not even a road. And it's so dark that we're like, there's no tunnel. And we have to scratch and crawl our way around the mountain until we find a road. And then we follow that road until we find a tunnel. And there is always a light at the end of a tunnel. A tunnel is something that goes through both ways. It is a single line, maybe crooked, but there's a single line that goes through to the other end. And I've heard people, and I've said it myself, yeah, there's a light. It's a train coming at me. Well, if it's a train coming at you, stand aside, let the train pass, and then go into the tunnel, and you will find the other side. Now, again, to be honest, as you're going through the tunnel, you might find a hole. And if it's a real shallow one, you know it's a crevice and you keep going without any problems. But sometimes those holes are caves, and we get inside of that cave and we don't instantly feel that it is a cave and that we're trapped. We've got to be alert and say, is this truth? Is this a tunnel? Or am I trapped in a cave? And it may take a minute feeling the wall before you figure out that, yep, this is a cave. So when you find those temporary things to be grateful for that really are not things to be grateful for, then remove yourself from that situation and get back on the track. And the tunnel will come to an end on the other side of the mountain, of the rock, of the whatever it is. But there is always two ends to a tunnel. So when they say there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, it's true. And I heard you say, yeah, but it's dark outside, so there's no light. Yes, the sun is always shining, and I'll tell you that story about my sister Heather another time. But the sun is always shining somewhere. And if you hold on, the sun will start to shine there. But there are two ends, go by the moonlight, go by the sunlight. So that's important. Another thing that I want you to keep in mind is that there are three things to help cultivate gratitude. And the first one is mindfulness. Mindfulness. Pay attention to the here and now. Be mindful of the things going on around you. This may be where you do your meditation. This may be where you recognize the positive aspects of your life, some of the ones from before. You got to be aware of the small, everyday blessings. These help shift you to finding what is positive today. Number number two, okay, that's a two. This is a three. Number two, reflection. Regularly take time to reflect on what you're grateful for. And this can again be through journaling, it can be through meditating, or simply just pausing for a moment and taking in a deep breath and feel joy and kindness. But reflection. So, meditation, reflection. And then the last one is expression. Express gratitude. Tell people what you're grateful for. If you're grateful for somebody else, tell them you're grateful for them. Do acts of kindness yourself. And, sharing your appreciation helps strengthen your connection and reinforces positive feelings for you toward other people, but also toward yourself. I am grateful that I was able to say buenos dias to about 30 people this morning. Yes, at 6 in the morning, there were at least 30 people on the beach, and buenos dias was said by everybody, but I was grateful I could smile and say that to people. Now, that sounds really weird. Why would you be grateful you can smile? Because not being able to smile is sad. I was able to sincerely smile from my whole being and grateful to be able to my very few Spanish words that I know, buenos dias, and they say it different here. They say buena dia, but buenos dias is good morning. How are you? Good day. It's one of those. It's actually good day, but it it makes me feel better to know I can smile at others, but it also instantly puts a smile on the other person's face. Unless they are truly grumpy on purpose, people will automatically smile when you smile at them and say good morning. And you know what? When they smile at you when you say good morning, be grateful that they smiled back at you. Those are some of the things to be grateful for. Now, I want to show you a picture of my beautiful young boy. My son, this is my son. This is my son that had attempted suicide. He felt like he had no reason to live, nothing to live for. And yet he is the joy of my heart. The kid is brilliant. He plays, I don't know, 117 different musical instruments, probably 17 of them first chair. Give him an instrument in a couple of days and he'll master it. He thinks in numbers, he thinks in rhythm, he thinks in music, but he also is very analytical. He's what I call an owl. He can find problems and solve problems faster than anyone I know. The kid is, again, brilliant and has every reason in the world to be grateful, but at that point in his life, there was nothing to be grateful for because everything seemed to be going wrong for him. And as we talked about it as time went on, I can understand how he felt. Now, can I really fully understand it? No, because I wasn't the one going through it. But it made sense to me why he felt that way as we continued to talk about it. And it made sense why he felt better as life went on. And today he is a very wonderful, happy, thriving 37-year-old, where then he was 18. And there's a huge difference. And he's a very happy, well adjusted human being and has a lot to live for. And people are grateful. He is one of my gratitudes is that I have him in my life because he regularly sends me notes saying, "Hey, mom, love you. How are you doing today?" And I look forward to those notes. My daughter does that too. "Hey, mom, I love you. How are you doing today?" And my kids, as they do that, that's something to be grateful for. And the more I'm grateful for, the easier it is to show the love back. And the more I show the love back, the easier it is for them to show love to me. Gratitude. Gratitude is an attitude that we choose to have. And I am, again, so grateful for all the many, many blessings that I have. And I have bad things happen. And you know what? I'm not grateful for that bad thing, but I'm grateful for other things that I can focus on. That doesn't mean you ignore the bad thing and pretend it doesn't exist. It does. So you've got to do something about it. You've got to communicate. You've got to remove yourself from the situation. You've got to fix a problem. You know, you may have to hire a plumber. Whatever it is, there is a way around that. But you focus on that which is good. And here is another big challenge that I'm going to give to you guys. New Year's Eve. Do not write New Year's resolutions this next New Year's Eve. And I say that because New Year's resolutions are really good for about a month, and then we have so many of them, we get overwhelmed, we stop doing them. And that's a whole nother topic in its own. But New Year's Eve, here is something my sister Heather taught me. And again, we'll talk about Heather another day. But uh, filled with wisdom. She's the most brilliant woman I've ever met. But New Year's Eve, we would write down all the things that had gone wrong the year before. You know, I was ornery about this. So and so said that. This happened to me. You know, the plumbing broke, but whatever went wrong. We wrote it down, we folded it up, and we put it in an envelope. And then we had to write down a minimum of 100 things that went right the past year. And it might be I was able to smile sometimes. And it might be some bodily functions. But you'll find that as you do this year after year, it's hard to stop at 100 because there's so many things to be grateful for over the course of a year. Well, what we do is at midnight, everybody's out banging their pots and pans in the United States. I don't know what you do everywhere else, but in the United States, they bang their pots and pans. Here we blow up fireworks and have the big old, that's awesome. You have to experience that here in Ecuador. Um, they, yeah, whole nother story. But yeah, remind me to tell you that someday. But what we would do is at midnight, we would take our envelope of regrets and we would take them out and we would light them on fire and they would burn up. So we were sending those into the elements to dissipate. The elements clean it, cleanse it, and bring it back into positive into the world. And then we'd go in and we would sit down and we would read at least 10 of our gratitudes to the people in the room. 10 of the things that we were grateful for. And that helped set the new year off right because we were talking about what we were grateful for the previous year, knowing that we were going to have things to write about to be grateful for the upcoming year. And it helped all of us look for things to be grateful year after year after year. So this is something that you may want to do. But again, the big one, and this is one every single day, get a journal and every single day list 10 things that you are grateful for, even if it has to be bodily functions. So now I'm going to make Jace come on and give me 3 things he's grateful for. And he's like, don't put me on the spot like this. Jace, list 3 things. I won't make you do all 10, but 3 things you're grateful for, and bodily functions do work. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear
I
me
can
now?
hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah. Actually, while you were talking and you were, I was already listing down 10 things that I'm grateful for because I
Oh,
said,
are you willing to share?
yes, I'm going to share this. So, the first one would be I am grateful for having my parents with me currently. Um, a little bit of explanation. I will be living with my grandparents soon, but I'm grateful that I was able to live with them again. So there's that. I'm grateful for being able to wake up and plan what to do throughout the day because that's just something that I don't do often for some reasons.
Yeah.
I am grateful that I was able to buy groceries. And I am grateful for you because
Oh,
I can now remind myself again that when I buy groceries, I need to challenge myself and make a small change, which I did again earlier. And I am grateful that I get to work I am grateful that I was able to get ready faster today than the past few days. I am grateful that I have a partner that assists me and reminds me on what I need to do. I am grateful that I get to listen for another episodes of KARENisms because now I can already remind myself that it's always good to have even the tiniest bit of gratitude, just so that you can look very positively on things. And I am grateful for you again on reminding me that there are always small things that I can be grateful about. And I am grateful that I have friends that I can be with even after months of having no conversations with them. So,
Oh, that is wonderful. What a fabulous list of gratitudes. Well, and again, I'm not blowing smoke. I am so grateful for you, and I feel like
thank
I've got a partner, a best friend, a coworker that I can totally trust and rely on, and I do. And totally trust and rely on. I You remind me, I forget. Please subscribe and like the channel. Please subscribe to it. And if you haven't done it already, do it. Subscribe and then like, because that makes a big difference for us, for our algorithms, so that we can continue to bring shows to you. And so I really appreciate that. And that being said, I am excited about Wednesday's show. Jace, we got a great one coming Wednesday. I've got Holly
you
Porter
will.
on again, and she's going to talk about transformative, spiritually transformative experiences. And oh my gosh, this woman's had 3 near-death experiences, and she's every one of them was completely different, and she's going to share one of those with us again on Wednesday. And that's on Power Surge Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, be sure and join us next week for KARENisms, Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We try and do everything at that time frame, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so that if you're going to hear from me, you know that's going to be the time frame that you do. And I've got a webinar that's coming up. Be on the lookout for that, because we want to get you signed up for the webinar too, and I'll talk more about that next week. That being said, I am grateful for all of you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had to do these shows, and for you tuning in. That being said, mwah, ciao for now.